All right, so we're back with another car conversations. As we're heading to the gym right now, how to push past discomfort and what's your true objection when accomplishing a goal. So a lot of times, right, we don't feel like we have success because we're always pushing our goal, and we don't take the time to be in a position where we're showing grace, showing true mercy to ourselves, because we're not in a predicament where we're not acknowledging what we're able to accomplish. And so, what it comes down to, right? You have a goal. We talked about reverse engineering it, being in a predicament where you see yourself where you want to be at, and just seeing what are the necessary steps for you to become the individual that you want to become. And so once you do obtain that goal, what are some of the things that we're going to be looking at when we're viewing, okay, I've accomplished it, what's next? We always want to be in a predicament where we're in a place where we acknowledge that goal. We understand that there's new heights, but in that very moment, you got to give yourself pops on the back, because life be hard. And to obtain, big goals, it doesn't matter or equate to anybody else's. You're putting yourself in a place where you're rejuvenating, right? You're giving thanks. And that's the most important aspect when it comes to anything that we're doing. It's not just getting to the finish line. It's not necessarily just the journey itself, but once we accomplish these goals, take that time, right? Reward yourself. So some of the objections that I see when it comes to our goals and what we're trying to obtain, we're always in a rush for it. That's one. Two, we're not giving ourselves enough credit for the accomplishments and for the problems that we face. We could be having the same goal, but we're in two different predicaments where we have two different objectives. An example of that would be, back in school where the teacher will give you the same material on a test, but it's two versions of a test, right? And so again, the different problems, it might equate to the same amount of effort. It might take a little bit more effort as it pertains to just getting there. Somebody might get there quicker, but at the same time, you want to be in a place where you focus on you. We talked about this in our previous video, being in a predicament where you focus on yourself and not caught up with the Joneses. And we're going to play an aspect towards this, because if you're so caught up in other people's work, you forget your fine detail within yours. And it's important. So again, you understand that you need to reverse engineer. Focus on the goal, focus on the version of yourself that you want to become. That's the first step. What are some of the problems that you face is the second step. If it's something that you're able to correct, great. If it's not, you forget about it, you come back to it. But once you get there though, take time before you celebrate your new accomplishment, your new milestone. And so that might be a vacation. It might be a celebration of things that you might not necessarily indulge in. You know what I mean? And for myself, as we talked about, I love going on vacations as a reward to myself and my efforts for whatever it is that I accomplish, because, the vacation itself, when I'm there, whether it be on a cruise or whether it be out of the country, it's a result of the efforts that I put in, right? The money that I've been able to obtain given the work for my business. And that's a great feeling, because it's nothing like obviously seeing, your fortune of the things that you've accomplished, but also seeing it because you got it from the ground up, from your own hustle. So when you see yourself out there and you traveling, it hit different because it allows you to become more appreciative. So the next thing though is tackling the objections and feeling, why do I feel so not content? Why do I feel like I'm always striving for more and it just doesn't feel like it's satisfied enough? When you come from a predicament or in a space in life where you've always had to survive, once you reach that threshold where you found the consistent effort, right, the consistency of a structure of having balance, you got to refine your ideas of how you perceive life, because that same scarcity mindset of always feeling like you're on a go, even when you accomplish 100,000 different things, you're going to always feel like you on a go. So it's important to make sure that, okay, now that I'm out of that mentality, that structure of survival mode, I found balance, I found peace within my everyday life. I accomplished my goal, whether it might be a new job, whether it might be my physical goal, going to the gym. This takes some effort of just reflection, because you are always constantly battling within yourself. So what you want to focus on when you are in a predicament where, okay, I found that balance with my work and life balance, rewarding myself for my efforts, how do I reflect and what does it look like? You got to identify and be in tune with your emotions. How am I feeling? Ask yourself that, first thing in the morning, as it pertains to just physically how I feel, and then also within the day. So if I know that, hey, my goal is to make sure that I'm going to the gym, I'm doing a hard 75. If I'm going to the gym for 75 days, how am I feeling, through each day? I tell my clients, it's not about just you getting to that finish line. It's about the progression of every day, when you reach that 75 days, but also how am I feeling? If I feel like I'm just dead beat, again, I might need to change some things up, or that might be too harsh of a goal for myself, and I might need to give myself a longer duration. But if I feel like every day that I'm waking up, I'm feeling motivated, I'm feeling eager, I'm feeling just like I can continue to do it at the effort and at the pace that I'm doing it, then it's gonna make sense. Let's keep going. Let's keep putting in this effort. But if I'm lackadaisical, I feel like when I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm dreadful, feel burnt out. Again, you gotta make sure that you identify and understand your emotions as it pertains to your goals, because it's no point of reaching the goal and you're not able to see the reflection of the true growth. You're not able to see the reward and the effort you put in. When you come from that scarce mindset of survival mode, you're just trying to get by. Once you get it, you want to continue to get by. And it's like, you've accomplished 100,000 things, bro. Like, again, you've established your apartment, you've established your statue. Why are you in a predicament where you're looking at life where you still feel like you're surviving? Because if you identify those emotions that come with that, it's always you're anxious. You always feel like you're second guessing yourself. You always are feeling like it's not good enough. But even if you are in a predicament where you're surviving, you even got to reflect and give grace then, because you're in a predicament where you got food, you got clothes. And again, you're alive. And when that allows you to be more appreciative, it allows you to focus on the next day. It allows you to be appreciative of where you're at. That's what you want to identify, right? When you first wake up, what kind of emotions are you experiencing within your goal, within that alignment of that goal? So now that we've identified our emotional connection between how we're feeling within our objection, right? Whether it might be a goal, a lifestyle change, now we got to start identifying and understanding physically what kind of toll is it taking on the body. So even though if my goal, right, is to get leaner, put on more muscle, and I know emotionally I'm feeling good, is my body physically demanding, is it reacting the same way? Is the demand too much? So if my efforts is to be in the gym 6 days a week, does my body feel stressed? So, dealing with high clientele, within my profession, they might have the attitude, today I want to work out, but it's been a very stressful day at work. You got to understand, when you're working out, to really properly maximize the contraction, the muscle has to be loose. If it's super tight and strained, that's how tears and injuries occur, because the body isn't loose. So a lot of times, because of that stress, our body tenses up and limits our range of motion. If it limits our range of motion, that means you're not properly going to be able to engage a specific muscle that you're targeting. Everything plays on great alignment. So if I'm physically feeling like this 75, hey, I'm mentally there, but my body, the demand on it is too much, my body's going to have an adverse response because it can't do it. And so what do you do then? It's not that goal can't be attainable. What happens is now, that's the same goal, we got to just break it down to duration. Either make it longer, the amount of days I'm hitting the gym, make that less, right? So again, you identifying and understanding the emotional response, and then the physical response that that your body is allowing it. If you go into a new job, you usually got a new promotion, mentally, hey, you're there for it, making more money, but the toll from being away from family, right? That amount of stress. Now that you're making more money and you're taking a step further within your lifestyle, the stress and the weight of just maintaining that alone, that could be a handful. So when you've identified, even though I'm emotionally there, my body physically, looking at it from a longer duration, it might not be able to be high demand. You might need to readjust and recalculate. Super important when it comes to just the lifestyle that you want to live and the longevity of it. And then worthwhile if you can only live it for a short while. So you got to ask yourself, do you want the goal that you are looking for momentarily, or is it going to be a lifestyle change? If it's a lifestyle change, let me make those lifetime commitments. Today, a part of our Heart 75 Road to 15%, I'm going to be taking you through a full body lower extremity workout where we'll focus on the legs. So I'm going to have my general warm up for about 5 to 10 minutes on the Stairmaster, being in a great position while I'm focusing on just getting that heart rate up, warming up the body. So the Stairmaster is a great cardiovascular exercise equipment that we typically use, especially because it's trending on social media. But you want to be mindful of your hip flexors and not overusing it, because we want to make sure that we're able to fully extend and we're not causing any lower back pain by having this tight hip flexors. So within my general warm-up, I want to make sure that I'm performing between 55 to 65% of my total heart rate. By calculating it, it's 220 minus your age. So we want to make sure that within our metabolic pathway, we're really focusing on burning fat as our primary fuel source and then our carbs. All right, so our first exercise within our core activation, we're gonna have an unilateral T-bar or trap bar farmer carry. So keeping our chest tall, we wanna make sure that even though it's overloading on one side, we wanna engage our core to make sure that we're not here, we're symmetrical. So as we keep that chest tall, we're really overloading on one side. Having our shoulders touch, chest is tall. Really squeezing our core. All right, so our next exercise within our core activation, as we're focusing on unilateral movement, we're gonna be performing a kettlebell farmer carry. So very similar, however, we're gonna add the marches into it, making sure that we're driving that knee up to the hip as we're dorsiflexing. Let's get right into it. Keeping the chest tall. As we breathe, everything's tall. At the top position, we're in a clean. Tucking that elbow in, chest is tall. That bottom kettlebell, we're making sure it's away from the body. Having a slight bend in the elbow. After our core activation, we're gonna have a dynamic warm-up. We're gonna start off with a 3-point squat, feet to shoulder width, keeping our chest tall. We're gonna be performing at 4 to 6 reps. We're gonna do a squat, hamstring stretch, reverse lunge. Remember to breathe as we're on the balls of the foot. We wanna make sure that we're feeling our hip flexor. Performing a dynamic warm-up is super important because we want to make sure that we're mimicking the movements that we're performing within our workout. Right after that, we're going to have an inchworm for our lunge spinal twist. As we extend through the full range of motion, at the top position, we want to make sure that we're parallel with our arms. As we're breathing, really take your time going through the range of motion. That way we have a greater stretch. Very similar, we're gonna have an alternate scorpion. A good indication when we're performing a dynamic warm-up, if you have a slight sweat, that's how you know you're warming up properly. We're not here to skip steps. We want to make sure that we're preparing the body. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Typically, a dynamic warm-up is between 5 to 8 minutes max. Keeping that chest tall. Last one. Chest is tall. All right, right into our pre-rehab. Now, it's super important that we're making sure that we're taking preventive measures within strengthening our tendons and our ligaments. So as we're in a kneeling position, we're gonna have the resistance band below the ankle. We're gonna extend forward, making sure that our heel stays flat. Now the goal here, make sure that heel past the toes. Everyone's range of motion is different. Calf is against the hamstring, and then we're gonna pull back. Now we could be limited due to our hips, but we're really focusing on that ankle mobility. Now you wanna ask yourself, how does my knee feel? We're gonna be performing this movement 3 to 5 times. If you wanna improve your PRs, your range of motion, you gotta be able to focus on your pre-rehabilitation, right? Really be able to fully lengthen without any limitations. So keeping the chest tall at the hips, we're gonna have anterior pivot tilt. Really feeling that stretch there as we extend. As you team out the torso, lean forward, really make sure that we keep our chest tall, and then we fully lengthen at the hips. Same thing, we got 5. Now, same thing, we're gonna go away from the body. So as it goes away, we're gonna go towards the body now. So I really want to start it off as we go away from the body. Feel a good stretch. It's okay if our toes and our foot is in line. All right, so our last exercise within our pre-rehabilitation, we're focusing on those ankles once again. Making sure as the foam roller's here, you can either do it this way or against it. Toes point towards us in dorsiflexion. We're focusing on eversion when we point out. So if you ever have like an ankle sprain, you really want to make sure that your mobility, being able to have eversion and then inversion control on the way in. We'll perform this about 10 times. And then we'll switch it. Keeping our chest tall, we're going to point out, slowly come in. Going all the way in. Point out, slowly come in. Now it's important that we focus on our posture, keeping our chest tall. That way when we're sitting, not slouching. So as we're focusing on eversion. Eversion is when you point out. As we're focusing on inversion, controlling as our foot goes in. And you can also see how the tibialis is activated as well. Typically, all right, it's practice for us to want to be able to do our calf raises at the end. Now this is a very undermined muscle that we typically just do not train and we forget, we get too tired. So I like to start wherever I'm weak, that's what I'll start with. Whatever I overlook, that's what I'll start with. So I'm gonna have 25 here for 3 sets. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. What I realized in my other videos, as I'm recording, I get lackadaisical when it comes to counting, and I just be all the way off. So as I'm performing it again, really want to make sure I'm performing 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Woo. So because it's a small muscle, I'm gonna make sure that I'm resting for about 60 seconds max. I'll start it off with some walking lunges. Again, make sure on the back leg, when the ball's the foot, front leg is straight. We control the weight on the side. All right, as we perform our second set, keeping that chest tall. Really feeling the quads. You see the look in the eye, focused. Ooh, shit. After performing the walking dumbbell lunges, next we're gonna have this hack squat. Now it's kind of feeling the glute area, lightweight with the hamstring, so I'm gonna make sure I'm challenging myself, but I'm also monitoring how that feels. So after my first set of doing the half squats, that wasn't too bad. You're gonna load it up just a little bit more. We're gonna keep it going. So as I'm performing this, I'm making sure I go all the way down because my safety net is at that bottom position. So if I gave out, I'm making sure I give out at the bottom. But I'm gonna push through it though. This I'm gonna perform 8. I ain't playing around about them hamstrings, man. I gotta make sure I'm getting to it. But I feel good though, getting it going. So I'm gonna rest between 75 and 90 seconds, and I'm gonna keep it pushing. All right, so after performing the half squats, we're gonna have the linear press machine. Started it off with 2. Rule of thumb, it's a golden rule actually. You always want to go up by 45s. I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying that's a golden rule. So we're gonna make sure that we're doing a narrow position where our feet's inside shoulder width. We're gonna follow that up with another 12 feet at shoulder width, toes point out. That way we're focused on the glutes as well as those quads. Woo. Ah, man. Oh my goodness. Ah. It's a good warm up. Oh man. Super important, make sure, man, that you rest right here for about 30 seconds before you plop up. That way, you're making sure that blood and the elevation of your feet isn't going straight to the brain, so you feel like you're lightheaded. We're gonna go up though, that was a lot lighter than I expected, so I'm gonna go up about another plate or so. That's work though. Even when you feel tired, we gotta keep putting in that work. So I wanna make sure, I'm pushing myself. And as I'm doing so, I'm being real careful, real mindful of how my body feels. Because it's important that we're not ego lifting. We can get away with challenging ourselves here and there, but if your body says it quits, you should listen to your body. We don't want to prolong an injury that's not necessary. You can't be showed up. And if that's all you can give, that's all you got. Our last set, very similar. We got 12 on each. Now, when it's narrow, to be honest, that's where it's easy. Now, when it's wider though, this is when it becomes a challenge because we really want to focus on depth, making sure that our lumbar spine isn't coming up, right? So make sure our lumbar spine is supported against it. Keep that chest tall, have your shoulders touch. Where we going? Up. Up. Had to tap into that zone. But them motherfuckers was burning, I'm not gonna lie to you. My feet, I can't even keep still. It's one of them ones though, when it comes to this workout, pushing through, but that motherfucker tired. And we just started. It's all good though. That's what we asked for. As we look upon the stars, I ask God for his strength. We got leg extensions next though, so let's pop up. Give me 1 second. Let's pop up in a second. Oh man. This is a PSA to all gyms, right? This is what they'll love. Make sure you rack them weights. And we'll help the next person. We got the leg extensions. Now if you notice, body weight, right, supported, and we're going to another supported machine. And then right after, we're gonna go back to a body weight. So the reason why is because the lumbar spine we wanna give a rest to, while also making sure that we're maximizing the contraction. So it's good to perform your body weight movements, right, where you're solely focused on the core engagement. But again, as you develop wear and tear on the muscles over time, right, your body is gonna be restricted just because as you age, that's what happens. So we're gonna make sure we focus on longevity. "12, 13, 14, 15. Now, right, there's a myth between how fast you should be going, am I going slow? You gotta be able to figure out what's your constant speed, whatever you start with, make sure that, again, throughout the full movements, you're going through the full range of motion, but you're also focusing on a constant speed. Right now, I'm trying to get this pump and just fucking get over it. I'm not gonna lie to you, just because, like, shit, my legs was dying. So I know that I'm getting a good contraction. On this next set, I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. Ah. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh shit. Oh man. So yeah, focus on that constant speed, really getting that good contraction at that top, slowing down at the bottom. We're gonna be focused on those hamstrings and the glutes. We're gonna have a rack deadlift. At the bottom position, we have the safety bars. And the reason why is because I wanna make sure that I have anterior pelvic tilt, and I'm going to where I really feel it in my hamstrings without overdoing it. Now, because I have a bulge disc, it's important to make sure that I'm minimizing the amount of impact on the back and more on my hamstrings. So that's what I want to focus on. So 8 to 12 reps. And knowing how my hamstrings already feel, as she said, this is not a joke. Two more. Now, as I'm performing the rack deadlift, I want to make sure that our shoulder blades are touching and I keep a neutral spine. That way my shoulders at the bottom, I'm not running forward. Now in the first few reps, I noticed that, made that adjustment, really squeezing the core. Now at that bottom position, as I'm coming up, at the hips, anterior tuck, that way at the top, everything's neutral. So it's good because in the anterior chain, engaging the core, the posterior chain, focus on those glutes and hamstrings, as well having my shoulder blades touch. I'm rest for 60 seconds. I'm gonna have the line hamstring curls as well as the single leg hamstring curls. And then we're almost there. All right, let me see how these hamstrings are doing. Oh man. Oh man. We're gonna come over here and isolate each one. Bottom position, have a slight bend. Ten, 11, 12. What are you willing to give when you're in a position where your back's against the wall? Or what are you willing to give when you have everything? Right now, when we're in a gym, we're in a space and a position where we have everything we can give. An opportunity not to go half-assed. What are we willing to give in order to get where we want to go? Sometimes what we want may not be worth it. You gotta just be transparent and truthful with self. All right, so the difference between our core activation and this last segment of our core movements, your core activation is really just to help to stabilize the core for a demanding workout, right? It's another essential tool that we use to just target the core, because again, a lot of the times, even though we're using it, we're in a predicament or a situation where we're not really focused on it. So we try to do that in the beginning, but that's the core stabilization. The core movements, right, is really focusing on about 60 seconds, using body weight or weighted, really focusing on very similar, growing the core. So we got rollouts for 60 seconds, back and forth. Now, because my legs are dead, this is all core. Almost there. 20 more seconds. So right after that, we're gonna have hanging leg raises or hanging knee raises. Almost there. You know, the thing that I almost gave up or cut the video short because of how my body was feeling, it was important to use those rollouts, the self-myofascial stretching, to really loosen up the hamstring, because it was getting tight in the beginning. And I wasn't really sure if I was gonna be able to continue. So given the circumstances and time, typically after this last set here, I do about 30 minutes in the sauna. All right, so with that being the last segment of today's workout, day 2 of a hard 75, roll to 15% body fat, right? Within our car conversations, really being able to focus on the mindset and mentality that you're supposed to have with just looking at life. And we're just utilizing the gym as a tool for therapy, and just isolation to really grow. All right, we're here to not just better ourselves, but then physically, but we got so much more to gain from the gym, and by utilizing it, we can get so many tools from it, right? Discipline, consistency, the reward for our efforts is super important. And so as we're going through this, we want to make sure that, again, we're focusing on our execution, focusing on being in a predicament where we're allowing ourselves to see growth. This is a lifestyle change and a lifestyle commitment, and by doing so, we're going to be able to implement just so many great things. So again, make the change, be the change, maximize your life through fitness, be who you desire. Once again, this is Coach Ice. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, we stay consistent as before, right? We're in a predicament, we're focused, we're hungry for it. And again, if you follow and you implement the workouts, the techniques, you focus on what we're implementing, I promise you, you'll be in a better predicament of just seeing the results that you're looking for. And continue to just share those who wants to see a new face, a new and upcoming content creator. All right, let's get after it. Keep getting after it. Like-minded dogs. For sure.